An interesting announcement from Blencowe Resources this morning regarding the SAFELOOP project, which is a European Union initiative. Here to tell us more about the latest, Mike Ralston. Mike, what is the latest?
Hi, Alistair. Glad to be back. Look, SafeLoop are doing, AETC within SafeLoop and the various parties and the various partners are doing a lot of test work. The objective of this Generation 3 lithium-ion battery that they're developing is to produce a new battery for EVs that's got enhanced safety, sustainability, and performance. And they're doing a lot of work in terms of all three. But in particular, the work in terms of sustainability seems to be going ahead very well. And part of that is this lean towards a majority of natural flake graphite as opposed to synthetic graphite within the anode. Typically 70-30 in favor of synthetic. But the work that's being done at the moment on our graphite using Oram Cross's product suggests that because of the high quality of that product, they can use a majority of natural flake graphite, which is, has big implications going forward.
So just remind us a little bit about your connection with SafeLoop in this development.
Well, we were chosen by Project SafeLoop to be the exclusive supplier of natural flake graphite going forward, mainly because of the test work that AET has done on our graphite over a long period of time, and they believe it's some of the highest quality graphite they've seen. And in a project to deliver, as I said, safety, sustainability, and performance within this new generation battery, they believed our graphite was very valuable in that. So we've been working with them, obviously providing samples, and they've got a very smart team doing a lot of good work. And the test work is coming out with some very, very strong results. And that's got big implications and ramifications for us and I guess the wider market going forward.
So you mentioned Oram Cross. There's ongoing work there from you guys at Blencowe. Tell us a little bit about what's been happening and perhaps talk to us about how you see the valuation at Oram Cross in your view, Mike. I mean, there is an established PFS which talks about an NPV. What are your thoughts about progress at Oram Cross and how it all stacks up?
Well, I think you can value companies on different mechanisms. In early stage, I guess there's a lot of valuation work done around Blencowe Resources, and we're in the very latter stages of a significant drilling program that's going to substantially increase both our resources and our reserves. So I would hope that that has an impact on our value. It's difficult to see how it stays the same if we substantially increase that Blencowe resource. So that's one aspect of it. But then as we fold that those drilling numbers into our DFS model, and ultimately come up with cash flow, a net cash flow, and ultimately an NPV. Typical valuations are a product of what that NPV looks like. And you're right in saying that we did have a PFS where we were sitting on an NPV of about $500 million US. I believe that our NPV in the definitive study is going to be even higher than that. And when you look at our market cap today, it's still sitting at the same level it was years ago. So I think it equates to about 2% of our NPV. And, frankly, that's crazy in a project that's now substantially de-risking. We're completing the final studies. We've obviously done all the work that we needed to do in terms of drilling. We've got our mining licenses. We own 100% of it. We've showcased that it's very low capex and low opex. I just think that the valuation it has to change. And I think there's huge upside available going forward. And I think I've talked about it before. There's a value inflection point coming at some stage where the true value of Oram Cross starts to get fed into the Blencowe market capitalization.
And to bring the conversation back to the beginning, there's obviously endorsement from the likes of SafeLoop and others who you've talked to about the quality of the product and the potential ability that Blencowe has to sell this product to significant customers.
Yeah, I think in terms of graphite, your end quality, your end product is absolutely everything. The market is very discerning. You have one-on-one relationships. They do a lot of testing. And pretty much everybody that's tested our product likes it. And we've got a host of different off-takers all across the globe. We're seeing a lot of Western interest, which is great. But I think SAFELOOP in itself, whilst it's still a developmental stage, this project, it's going to ramp out. Oh, sorry, it's going to break out into a fully fledged project and then be ramping up into in the near future, in the next couple of years. And I think the opportunity for us to have a huge Western off-taker, and we're obviously the exclusive supplier, so that means something. But paying premium prices, that could be our cornerstone off-taker for the entire project going forward. And we haven't even factored that into the study as yet because we don't have any off-take agreements, but it's sitting out there, and it's very, very possible that that can happen also. So, yeah, it's a great opportunity for us, another Western off-taker, and they're very valuable because they pay more. But I think we're making good strides there, and it's bringing a lot of European Union interest in as well. So, yeah, we're pretty excited about what SAFELOOP offers.
So we're waiting for the DFS to see what the latest parameters for the project will be. But what can you tell us, Mike, other than the NPV, which you've just mentioned, about the sort of likely scale? I mean, can you say anything about the potential cash flow or the likely upside that shareholders can get from this
Let's see.
project? I mean, it is a big project.
Yeah, our phase one production, we've raised from 5,000 tons to 10,000 tons because we wanted it to be profitable from day one. And I think that's very important. So we're going to have a profitable project. And as we scale it up towards 50,000 tons in phase two, it becomes very profitable. And it spins out some very significant cash flow. And that's why it's got such a strong NPV at the end of the day and IRR. So this is a project that can scale up extraordinarily. We don't know, I don't think anybody knows what the extent of demand for graphite can be going forward, because we've got a very nascent EV market and battery market in general. But we have the ability, if we're one of the few projects that does get into production, to then scale and scale again, because we'll build it in a modular fashion. And when we do that, the numbers can get very, very high indeed. So it's a great opportunity. And we've been working pretty hard to get through this DFS so that we can show everybody what it looks like. But more importantly, to move beyond that into funding and ultimately bring it into production. And that's when it really starts to show that we've got something special.
Is there anything you can tell us about funding at this stage?
Not really. I think we've found some pretty good funding options. We're exploring a couple of other ones which can be quite unique. I think the graphite market needs unique funding solutions because all of us are suffering with lower market caps than we probably deserve. And because of that, you can't go out and do the typical raise on the market for the equity portion. So you need to be a little bit creative. We've obviously done that already with a $5 million US grant from the US government through the DFC, but we're looking to do similar types of funding solutions that create more value and preserve shareholder value going forward. And look, as soon as I've got something to say that's set down in more tangible in stone, then we'll definitely bring it to the market.
And any other news flow for us to look forward to in the coming months? The DFS obviously looms ahead at some point.
Well, we're about to finish our drilling campaign that we've been talking about before, you and I. It's gone very, very well. We've just started today to complete the deep holes that we talked about before. Everything so far has been drilled to 30, 35 meters max, and we're still in graphite. So we decided to put 7 or 8 holes down that went much, much deeper down below 100 meters to see where this ends, because the possibilities of the size and scale of Aurum Cross become quite extraordinary if we're still in graphite beyond 100 meters. So that's exciting. And yeah, everything we've done, we stepped out to a new deposit at the Beehive, and we've found graphite from surface all the way down to 30 meters, which is exciting. But from a news flow perspective, we'll continue to put out what's happening out at site on the drilling, and ultimately get it through into assays and into a JORC resource. But as we wind up the DFS, we're going to have more offtake agreements coming through, and ultimately the study itself, big value inflection over the next 6 months as all of this comes to a head.
Your talk of drilling there, Mike, prompts me to ask you a final question. How long do you think this project has got in it in terms of a mine life? I mean, obviously there's an official number, but it sounds like there could be, a lot more there which you haven't really officially established. What do you think? What do you think the life of this project might actually end up being?
I mean, it's difficult to say. The geological experts talk about 2 to 3 billion tons. I don't know. You could spend years, decades drilling to get to that sort of number, and it just doesn't make sense to drill out that much. But typically in this circumstance, you drill 10 years ahead. So at any point, you're just going to spend a couple of $1 million and drill another 10 years and another 10 years and another 10 years. I certainly believe there's more than 100 years of mine life at significant levels at Orem Cross, which makes it a huge project. But I don't know whether anyone's ever going to drill it out that much. As I say, when we complete the work on these deep holes and we have a look and see how deep it goes and how much graphite there is at depth, it's going to be interesting to reevaluate that. But we know that there's so much graphite there, it can be mining for a long, long time. And we're not held back by the amount that we can actually mine. We're held back by what we can sell. And that's why projects and off-takers like SAFELOOP become so important, because they give you a channel to be able to sell significant quantities going forward. That's very unique to our own project. So these kind of things are worth their weight in gold.
So big project, big MPV, lots of news flow. We look forward to keeping up with all your progress, Mike. Thanks for talking to us today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, nice talking to you.